Hello everybody and welcome back to my channel. My name is Jessica and today I'm filming my first update of the year for my Pan Those Eyeshadows project. This project is extra special to me. It is what got me started in the YouTube space. I just was obsessed with watching Pan Those Eyeshadows videos and thought it was such a fun game that I really wanted to participate myself, and eventually had the guts to create my own Pan Those Eyeshadows videos. And it's been such a fun hobby for me. I've really enjoyed this little game over the past few years. It makes doing my makeup every day just a little bit more interesting and pushes me to be a little bit more creative, which I always love and enjoy. I'm sure you already know this project was created by a YouTuber named Alexi. She's no longer making YouTube videos, at least not currently, but I always have her linked in the description box below, and I want to give credit to her for creating this really fun project that has just taken off across the YouTube space. So if you would like to check out her videos, they are always in the description. I'm so excited to share with you my progress over the past month, and I will be rolling in a new shade or maybe two in this update, which is always the best part. So definitely stay tuned, and I'll be sharing my makeup looks from the past month at the end of the video. So stick around until the end so you don't miss it. If you haven't seen my introduction video, I will link it right here for you up in the cards. I took a little break in the month of December, but decided to roll over my shades that I was working on into the new year. So some of these shades have been in the project for 2 months already, even though we're only in the first update of the year, if that makes sense. Check out the video if you haven't seen it. Here's the color palette from the past month that I've been working on. I'll start with the eyeshadows that have been in this project the longest, starting at the bottom here. This green matte shade is from my e.l.f. Jalapeno palette, one of their bite-sized palettes, and it is shade number 3. This shade doesn't swatch amazingly, but it's a nice mossy green color. It does apply on the eye a lot nicer than it does in the swatch, so that is good. And I've actually really enjoyed reaching for some greens during this project. Here's what the shade was looking like when I had first rolled it in. I had barely used it at all. I reached for it 5 times during the first month, and it was looking like this. And these pans in here are quite shallow. I was very hopeful to be able to hit pan on this by this update, and I'm happy to say that with 2 more uses, here's what it's looking like today. And you can see that I was able to hit pan. I have a nice tiny little pan in there, and like I said, these are quite shallow, so I didn't have to work too hard to get to that one. And I was using a more dense brush for my outer corner most of the time when I was applying this. It doesn't take much to hit pan on these palettes, and that for me is good news because that's another pan that I get to add to my pan percentage and one that I get to roll out of this project. So there's my first good news of the update. Don't mind all my cuts and scrapes here. I have a very vicious cat, as you all know. He's cute, but he's vicious, okay? That's what that is from. I am his own personal play toy. I am but a servant to my cat. Any cat owners out there, you know how it is. So moving on to the next shade, this is Hold Me Down. It's a metallic shade from the ColourPop She's a Rainbow palette, and this one has also been in my project now for 2 months. Here's what it was looking like when I first rolled it in November of last year. I reached for it 5 times during that first month, and it was looking like this. And during the month of January, I reached for it 7 additional times, and here's what it's looking like today. And it is starting to form a nice dip in there. I'm really happy to see the progress on this shade. We have 12 total uses on this shade now, and I'm really hopeful that I will have pan on it in the next month if I continue to reach for it consistently. If I can reach for it 7 more times and match what I did this month, I think that by next update, I will have a pan to share with you on this. We shall see. I'm really hopeful. You all know that I am quite stubborn when it comes to panning, and if I plan on hitting a pan, by golly, I am gonna get it done. So look forward to seeing that pan next update, but for now, this shade is staying in, and I am fine with that. It's a beautiful shade. I love wearing purples. I do have this shade on my lower lash line today, just as like a little extra pop of purple. I was just feeling my eyeshadow shades on my top lid were just a little lackluster, so I wanted to add a little extra oomph, and I think that it was a nice effect. I mean, I don't hate it. It's a good way to get used on it. Moving on to my next shade in the palette, we have Teak right here, this very pretty metallic bronze, brownie bronze shade. This is from the ABH Sultry palette. And I've also had this shade in my project for the past 2 months. So here's what it was looking like when I rolled it in November. I was able to use it 11 times during that first month, and it was looking like this. I had quite a significant dip on it and was very close to pan. I used it 4 additional times this month, making for 15 uses total, and here's what it's looking like today. And some of you might already know, if you watched my Chit Chat Get Ready with me, I have a pan on this shade, another pan in this palette. So happy to see it. I love seeing more use on this palette. It's one that I really love, and it's been a little bit neglected. I would just love to see it get more used, more love during the course of this year, and having it in a Pan Those Eyeshadows project is a great way to do it. If you haven't seen my chit chat get ready with me, I will link it for you so you can actually watch me get ready with this palette and see me hit pan creating a look with this shade. Just for fun, you know, why not? But I'm really happy to have another pan in this palette, just to have this palette be looking more used. Feels really good, and I'm really happy to roll out another shade from this project, and that means we get to roll a new one in, which is so much fun. I mostly like to use this shade all over the lid. It was quite an easy shade to reach for. I love wearing browns on the eye, especially darker browns. Just they do have quite a sultry look to them. I mean, not to reference the name of the palette, but hey, I named it the Sultry palette for a reason. It was giving sultry vibes. I just loved it as like a one shadow look. I would put a color in the crease, have this all over the lid, blend it out. Wham, bam, thank you, ma'am. Maybe a little highlight in the inner corner. I loved having a go-to look like that for this month, and it was one that I went for quite frequently. It was just so easy to reach for. Which brings me to shade number 4. This is Radiate from my Huda Beauty Rose Quartz palette. I just brought this in last month, so it's only been 1 month that I've been working on this. Here's what it was looking like when I had first rolled it in. This entire palette was basically untouched, but I reached for this shade a lot during the past month. I actually reached for it 13 times, and after those 13 uses, here's what it's looking like today. And I don't know if you'll even be able to tell. It's hard for me to even tell. There's hardly any progress on this shade at all. It has a little bit of a disturbance. These mattes are pretty dense, and it's such a light shade. It's really hard to see any difference, even after 13 uses, which is a little disappointing, a little disheartening. I think this will be one of those shades that I use 30 times and don't hit pan on, but I'm not gonna give up on it. It's gonna stay in another month, probably 2 more months. We'll see what it looks like next month, but I don't think I'll have pan. I forgot to mention my rules for this project. I hold kind of a high standard for my rules just because I really want to hit the pans and do my best to reach that goal. So for my project, I keep each shade in until I hit pan, or I use it at least 30 times over at least 3 months. So if I hit those 30 uses before 3 months, I will still keep it in. If I have it in for 3 months and don't hit 30 uses, I will continue to keep it in until I hit that 30 uses. So I want both of those criteria to be met before I roll it out, if I haven't reached pan by that point, which of course, that's always the #1 goal. But this might be one of those shades. We shall see. The progress we're seeing today makes me feel a little bit nervous, but I really don't mind. I love having this palette out. I've had so much fun playing with it. It has so many beautiful shades in it. It's been a great opportunity for me to get to know it. I just got this palette around Christmas time, and it's pretty unusual for me to really dive into a palette right when I first get it. And I'm really happy I was able to do that with this one, because it really just made me appreciate it that much more and just fall in love with it. Really been enjoying the journey with it, and that one is going to stay in. I just love how pretty this palette is too. It's so gorgeous. Oh, love it. The last shade for me to update you on is this one here. This is Diamond Cut, and it is from a ColourPop 5-pan palette. This one here called High Society. It's this first shade here, a very pretty shimmery green. Been a lovely shade to have around. I've really been enjoying playing with it. Here's what it was looking like when I had first rolled it in. I'd used it a couple times, but not much. I reached for it 7 times during the past month, which I think is pretty darn good for such a bright shade. And here's what it's looking like today. And I am starting to see a nice little dip on that shade. I did a really fun look with this eyeshadow palette where I created like a graphic liner with it. That was so fun. I think I actually wore it in a video. Yeah, I'll link that video here if you'd like to see my makeup look in action. But I found a lot of fun, creative ways to integrate this in with more neutral looks, as well as doing like all out green looks with it. And it's been just fun to have that pop of color in this project. So that one is going to stay in. I did hit pan on a similar palette. It was like the blue version of this palette last year, and I was able to do that in like less than 10 uses. So I know that these pans are not super deep, and I'm hopeful that if I continue to reach for that with like a detail brush, I should have pan on this one by the next update. Fingers crossed. That is my goal. Always, of course, but look forward to seeing, again, another pan here, hopefully in my next update. So I hit 2 pans this update, and I'm rolling out the shade from my e.l.f. Jalapeno palette, as well as Teak from my ABH Sultry palette. and that means I get to add to my pan percentage. I also have new pans for my Pan Those palettes this year. Those are also going to be included in my pan percentage. I hit 2 pans in my palette that I'm working on for Pan Those palettes, so I'm going to include that in my new percentage. So I'm adding 4 new pans total. I have 466 individual pans of eyeshadow in my collection. And last month I had pan on 56 of them. So I had a pan percentage of 12.02%. My goal this year is to reach 20%. You know, it's quite a lofty goal, but I tend to do that to myself. So again, I hit 2 pans here as well as 2 pans in my Pan Those palette. So I'm gonna add 4 new pans to my pan percentage. So now I have 60 shades with pan out of the 466. So my new pan percentage is 12.88%. We're very close to 13%. And if I stay at this pace, I'm hopeful that I should be able to get to 20% by the end of the year. Here comes butter. Especially since the shades in my Pan That palette are really easy to hit pan on, and I have a goal of hitting 2 pans in that palette per month this year to meet my goal of hitting pan in every single shade. I'll link my Pan Those Eyeshadows playlist right here for this year so you can check it out and catch up on everything that I'm talking about if you're completely confused right now. Butter's shaking my tripod. Butter! Oh, you have to see his new bow tie. Come here, my baby. Come here. Look at him. Look at him. Can you see his bow tie? Look. Look at his little bow tie. Isn't he handsome? Butter? He's too chunky, you can't see it. But he's just so handsome. And he was sitting on a pink blanket the other day, and that made me realize that pink is totally like his color. Doesn't he have pink undertones? Pink is your color, Butter. Pink is your color and is your collar. So yes, that is his beautiful little handsome collar, and it's perfect for Valentine's Day. I mean, he's the perfect gentleman, and he is definitely my Valentine, my fuzzy little Valentine. My fuzzy Valentine, my baby. Okay, you don't want to be held, so. Can you hear him purring? My baby, I love you. Okay, you can go. Anyways, I think I'm on pace for hitting 20% this year. These videos and all of you out there help to keep me motivated, so thank you for cheering me along. I think I'm actually going to mix things up a little bit and take this time to talk about my eyeshadow looks. That just seems appropriate since I just showed you all of my shades and I can just reference them easily right here on my hand. Oh no, Butter swapped them off. I don't have every single eyeshadow look that I created for the past month to share with you, thank goodness, but I do have a few that I think are quite fun and interesting. This first look includes the green shade from the Jalapeno palette in the outer corner, as well as Teak all over the lid, and then I have diamond cut on the inner corner and lower lash line, and I thought this look was really pretty, a really neutral way to wear green. It was wearable enough where I felt comfortable wearing this one to work, and I liked it. I mean, it was nothing super special, but it was pretty. This next look is a really neutral, kind of basic makeup look with just like a brown shimmery eye and a red lip. And I added some fake freckles just for like some fun and whimsy. In this look, I am wearing Teak all over the lid. And again, I do really like how that shade wears. All of the shimmers in the palette are gorgeous. Teak is no exception. This pink look I really enjoyed. This, of course, has Hold Me Down all over the outer part of the lid, maybe even all over the lid, topped with another shade on the inner part. I actually got kind of upset at work. I've been having a rough time at work the past couple weeks, but things are getting better. No worries, but I think I got a little emotional and I messed up my eyeshadows. These pictures aren't the best, but you get the basic idea. And I can't necessarily recall what other shades I'm wearing, just another random mix of things from my collection. This was a really fun graphic look that I created. I was kind of like feeling euphoria vibes. I just wanted to go really colorful, really creative on my eye and had a lot of fun with it. I think the only shade I'm using in this look from this project is Diamond Cut. I have it all over that inner part of the lid as that bright, punchy, shimmery green. And then I used other shades from the High Society palette on the top lid, all those greens, and then of course some purple as well. I don't think I used this shade. I used like a darker purple from another palette. I'm forgetting which one, but I hope you enjoyed it. I loved that look. It was super fun and I took about 1 million pictures with it. Here's more of a neutral purple look that I created, and I layered in this look Hold Me Down with more of a cranberry shade to kind of mute it down a little bit. And then lots of different things in the crease and outer crease. And I believe one of those is Radiate from the Huda Beauty Rose Quartz palette just to blend out my first transition shade. Similar, but a little more bright, this look also includes Radiate as a transition shade and Hold Me Down all over the lid, layered with a topper from the Huda Beauty Rose Quartz palette. I'm not sure which one of their beautiful duochrome iridescent shades. There's a few of them in that palette. One of the reasons I've been enjoying it so much. Here's that look I created with diamond cut all over the lower lash line and the upper part of my top lid. It's almost like a graphic liner cut crease effect. And I also paired that with Teak all over the lid. I thought that was a great way to let diamond cut just like have a little moment to shine, try something new. I was just playing around with makeup that day. It was like a weekend and I was having a lot of fun and I'm happy with how that turned out. And this last look was a very wearable way to incorporate diamond cut as well. I have it all over the lid, but really blended out with like brown warm shades in the crease. And then I used like a green liner on my top lid just to really bring out that green even more. And I thought this came out really pretty. I was actually really happy with it. So those are all the looks I have to share with you. And that means that it's time for the best part of the video, the time where I get to roll in new eyeshadows into this project. So we have 2 new shades to roll in to replace these 2. And I'm gonna use my Tiny Decisions app to first pick a palette and then pick a shade from that palette. If I roll in anything that's too similar to shades in my Pan That palette, I will re-roll. I have one palette that I really want to finish up completely, so if there's a shade that's competing with a shade in that palette, I don't want to take attention away from finishing that entire palette, and I'll just work on something different, something that'll add a little bit more variety into my project and into my eyeshadow and makeup routine. So here I have my Tiny Decisions app pulled up. I have every palette that is eligible to be rolled into this project as a little piece on this wheel. I also have a section for each of my single potted eyeshadows as well as my singles that are in my Z palette. So those also have the possibility of being rolled in. The only palettes that aren't in here are the palettes that I am working on panning this year in my Pan Those Eyeshadows project. Jeez Louise, how am I gonna keep talking about this project all day? So here we go, let's roll in the first palette. Oh, I'm so excited. I hope it's something new, something fresh, something that I haven't worked on before. But if it is, that's okay too. The painting gods will decide. It's up to them. Let's see. Let's see. Oh, we're going. Ooh, okay. That's the Makeup Geek Manny MUA palette. I did bring this in last year, but it's an older palette, so I'm happy to have it in and get use on it. Let's go ahead and grab it. And here she is. Last year, I had rolled in Cosmopolitan right there, and as you can see, I had hit pan on it. So that means I have 8 shades eligible to roll in. Let's put in the numbers 1 through 8 and see what comes up. Okay, so I put in the numbers 1 through 8. Let's see what we get. Number 1. All right. Well, that's easy peasy. So number 1 is this first shade here, and that is the shade Artemis. And as you can see, it already has quite a nice dip going in there. I reached for this shade as my inner corner highlight when I had this palette out for Cosmopolitan. It was just like my go-to reach during that time. So I already have a little bit of a head start, and that's encouraging. I'm hopeful that that means I can reach pan on this by the next update. And there is Artemis swatched. Nothing too special, nothing too exciting, but hey, that's okay. Not every shade has to be a bright pop of color. This actually might be a little bit of a break for me so I can really focus on other shades that are just, you know, a little more tricky to use and reach for. And this one will be really easy to grab for on a daily basis. And I think pan is not too far. We're like halfway through the pan as we are now. So maybe like 10 uses, 15 uses. I don't think that'll be hard to do. So that's exciting. And I'm just excited to get use on this palette and maybe even reach for a few other things in there and have fun with it. Get to know it a little more, get more use on it instead of just collecting dust in my drawer. Okay, let's see what the next palette will be. Oh goodness, the KVD Shade and Light palette. That makes me a little nervous. There's a lot of mattes in there. What am I talking about? There's all mattes in there. It's a completely matte palette. It is what it is. Let's grab it. Here is my KVD Shade and Light palette. I did hit pan on this shade right here last year. That is Succubus, or maybe it was the year before. Who knows? And I also hit pan on this, but then it broke and I had to repress it. So I lost that pan, which just broke my heart. This might be a little boring. Let's see what happens. There's 12 shades in here and 11 of them are eligible to be rolled in. Let's see what we get. I have 1 through 11. number 4. Okay. Number 4 is this shade right here, and I think it's called Samael? I don't know. It has a weird name. I swatched it and compared it to the brown in my Pan That palette just to make sure it wasn't too similar. So here is that shade number 4 from KVD Shade and Light. And then this shade here is from my Tarte's Pro To Go palette. And you can see they are quite different. This one is much deeper than this one. And I'm going to go ahead and roll this shade in. This palette is one of my oldest in my collection. And why not hit another pan on it? I'm not super excited about it, but that's okay. I need to reach for this thing. It's been on the chopping block in my collection for the past 2 years, I think. And I can't bring myself to get rid of it. It's such a good, just like standard for me. I love having this around Halloween. I love like this gray tone shade. I use it as a contour for like spooky looks. I love having a palette with all these neutral mattes in it that will meet a lot of different needs for a lot of different looks. So I keep it around for that purpose. And it's about time I reach for it again. So we will roll in that shade. The shade already has a good amount of use on it, even if you can't really tell. It is there. And hopefully in a couple months, it will have a pan. Let me swatch it for you on my hand and show you my entire color story together that I'm working on. So here is the color palette I'll be working on for the next month. I'm actually pretty excited about it. I'm happy that there's some neutrals in there that will be easy to reach for on a daily, almost daily basis. We still have those pops of colors that will keep it fun. And I'm just excited to be getting use on some of the older palettes in my collection as well as the new ones. That is all for my update this month. I really hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up. It really does help me out. Leave a comment down below and let me know what you thought about my color palette, any of my eyeshadow looks, just to say hi. I love hearing from you. Thank you so much for being here and watching this video. If you haven't already, what are you doing? Go ahead and subscribe to my channel so you don't miss out on any of my Project Pan updates, as well as other types of videos I throw out here and there when I have time, as I see fit. You know, we're all just doing our best. But I'm just so glad you're here, and I cannot wait to see you in my next video. Bye!